for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and I would move it.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Items 2 through 6 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items passed unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 2 is approval of the minutes of the March 10th, 2026 meeting. Item 3 is approval of claims. Item 4 from Board Administration, Karen James, is approval of resolution approving petition for suspension of taxes through the redemption process for initials TT. Item 5, Deputy Commissioner of Elections Steve Hoffmeyer is to receive the appointment of Gary Jordan to Director District 2, Western Iowa Tech, to fill the office previously held by Brad Griffin. Item 6 from Human Resources, Melissa Thomas. Item A is approval of a memorandum of personnel transactions. Item B is to authorize and to initiate the hiring process. And item C is approve the tentative agreement and its amendment with the Communication Workers of America, AFL-CIO, Deputy Sheriff, CWA 7177. I would move it.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Item 7, Secondary Roads Engineer Laura Severs, approve the contract for the LB U15573-97 Bridge Replacement Project with Dixon Construction Company for $402,626.80. Laura?
Good afternoon. Correct. So last week, we approved the lowest bidder on this project. And so today, I present the contract that the contractor has already signed, and just looking for board approval of the contract to replace that bridge with a twin box and provide a better service for those people in that area, so on 325th Street.
Any questions for Laura? I would move it.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Bittinger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Okay, thank you. Item 8 from Planning and Zoning, Dan Priestley, is approval of revisions to the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors agenda items request form to streamline the layout and fields as part of the ongoing project to revamp agenda posting on the Woodbury County website. Dan?
Yes, Dan Priestley. Yeah, as you know, I've been working with John Malloy and his team on a website project to kind of modernize it. And one of the aspects of making changes to the website is how we do agenda items and agenda forms. And in the backup materials is a proposal that lays out the criteria of expectation and what needs to be submitted by anyone who wants to get something on the board agendas. And the idea behind this form is it's going to be kind of adapted to the programming, where there'll be functionality on the website where this information and data can be inputted into the system. So our website provider, Neapolitan Labs, has basically prepared this document as a representation of what would be submitted in either digitally, but we'd also have the PDF form as always available. And basically there are some adjustments to this that kind of consolidate the boxes and the items. One in particular is just going to a wording for agenda item, then a background and financial together, and of course a recommendation. And Another would be the addition of a set time. So if, for example, you have a public hearing on the agenda on an evening and somebody wants to submit that to you, like they would put check mark public hearing and say you got like a 4:45 on something. So that was kind of added in there as well. So the whole premise of this is it's part of our grand website project as all the departments are making adjustments to modernize the website.
I know you've spent a lot of time working on this, and Dan and Matthew, you've kind of been following along some of this website revamp. But is there any questions for Dan at this time?
I just had a thought, looking at the contract question about review by the attorney's office. It's very specific. It asks if it's been submitted at least 1 week prior. Sometimes I think that might be checked and it's submitted less than a week prior. I don't know if this is really necessary. You know, to me, if it's been reviewed or not is the question. So yes or no. You know, answer by the time the agenda item is submitted. We're only looking at yes or no. We're not saying how many days before did you get this. Perhaps that box could become one of the boxes up above where it just says, you know, there's a box to check that says reviewed by county attorney's office.
Yeah, that's something we could include if the board would want to accept that as an amendment. I think that would be very fair and it would fit in with their ability to program and.
Right. I mean, anything that reduces the clutter on the page and we can have more, you know, fewer text boxes is good for the website.
Yeah, I don't care either way. You could do that, or you could just scratch, you know, about half of that sentence and leave the contract line and just say, you know, has this contract involved in the agenda item, has it been reviewed by the county attorney's office? Because I agree with you that the timeline of a week is not necessarily, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm agreeable either way. What, if you say it's easier for Neapolitan Labs to do something like this than the extra text, then that's fine.
And I think it would be, just because not everything that's reviewed is a contract. Sometimes we do ask for review, and it's nice to know that it's been reviewed. So I would move to accept with the amendment of adding reviewed by attorney's office as a checkbox above, replacing the language below.
I'll second that. Thank you, Mr. Hung. Any other questions, comments, concerns regarding that? Joshua?
Well, from my perspective, I think the current language on the form is mostly a reminder to county staff that there is an expectation from our office that we receive things in a timely manner so that you know, we have appropriate time to review things before it goes forward to the agenda. And I mean, certainly those expectations can be communicated outside of the agenda form itself, but we do have a certain amount of turnover in staff and of people that are filling out the agenda form, so I think it is sometimes helpful to have that right there. But I mean, as you know, there are times that things are urgent or come up last minute, and we do our best to accommodate time-sensitive things. But for things that are, you know, a contract that needs to be reviewed, we want that to be in final form by the time that the agenda item is due to the supervisors, and I think that's, Thursday at noon. And so the rule is that it's a week before when that agenda item is due. But whether it's on the form or not, I mean, we'll continue to talk with people and communicate those expectations.
Yeah, you guys can always communicate that expectation, and if someone is always, you know, getting it to you late and you don't get to it, then that's
Can't
yeah,
check
it's
the
not on you.
box.
Yeah, you can't check the box, and it's not on you guys. So, yeah, I appreciate that, Joshua, and we can And I think hopefully our staff does a good enough job of, and us as well, that we give you enough leeway. I know you're right, things come up and we call and we ask, and thankfully now you have a lot more staff. There's a lot more staffing in the attorney's office, and you know, your turnaround has definitely gotten quicker than when you guys were down so many people, years ago. But, yeah, we can definitely reiterate that to our elected officials and staff. So, thank you for that. Any other comments or questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Thank you for all your work on that, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, item 9, Building Services, Director Kenny Schmitz. Item A is approve construction low quotes totaling $105,822.09 and an additional $2,000 for unforeseen costs for the Tri-View facility.
Yes, this is a ask for an expenditure of $107,822.09 total. 105,822.09 of current quoted work, additional $2,000 for any unknowns that may come up. But as you know, we're in the middle of a shift of occupancies at the Tri-View location. And these are some building adjustments that are necessary to accommodate the new occupancy. In your packet is the background information on the competitive quotes that were received for the current dollar amount. And if you have any questions about any of that work or any of the quotes, I'd certainly be willing to try to answer those for you. One of the earlier questions I did get was if the Veteran Affairs Department or office was on board with this current plan. And I have visited with them, and yes, they are satisfied with this current plan, and I actually visited with them again today about that, so.
Great. And Kenny, I know you shared this with me, so I'll share it, but we had to have a cooler, obviously, for the morgue. And there was an entity that we had priced it from that was kind of a go-to, and we ended up finding one that was out of state. But we ended up finding one here locally that was not only way cheaper, but local. So thank you for looking into that. And anytime we can, get something from a local supplier, but then when it's the cheapest option too, that's always a great thing. So.
Yeah, so on those quotes, and I don't have the exact dollars and cents, but I believe the cost was nearly half, and we saved around, $30-some thousand.
Yeah, it's just a couple grand shy of half. Yeah, so that was great work. Thank you for that.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Motion by Bittinger, seconded by Nelson. Any further discussions or questions for Kenny?
So Kenny, you referenced competitive quotes, but they are not technically competitive quotes. There's multiple quotes that were received, but it's not Chapter 26 competitive quotes, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure we're clear on that, because when you say competitive quotes, that's kind of a legal term of art. But if someone goes out looking for the bid package where we post bids, it's not going to be there because it was determined that that process was not necessary for this project.
Yes, I wasn't necessarily using that as a legal term, so.
All right, thank you.
And that's why we've got the great attorney up here making sure that
Absolutely.
us simpletons use the right phrasing and vocabulary. So thank you, Joshua, for that. All right, any other questions for the good of the cause? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Passes 5-0. All right, item B is approve MOBA Medical quote of $53,627.53 and examiners-related office supplies. Kenny?
Yes, this agenda item is for medical examiner's office services and equipment and supplies in the amount of $53,627.53. Now, what this does not include, and I'm not sure what the need is, if there's any, but this does not include like office supplies, let's say like copy paper, just your standard normal budget office supplies. This wouldn't be any of that. This only includes basically equipment, medical examiner equipment. And that's why I've referenced that in the under financial impact where it shows office supplies and it doesn't show any amount there, so.
I'll move to approve.
Second. We have a motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. Any further discussion or questions?
Chairman, I just want to remark that in the fiscal '26 budget, there is still $310,000 left in the medical examiner. So it was last year, we were unsure exactly what the cost would be, but there was, a budget put in for the potential, construction of this. So this should be able to be handled by the '26 budget.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. And then item C is approve Ace Refrigeration 3-year service agreement and instruct the Building Services Department to apply expenses to the Tri-View facility annual operation budget. Okay.
Yes, this is a agenda item. I requested Ace Refrigeration provide a service agreement for the medical cooler if we're installed at the facility. We would not execute this contract until that cooler was up and running or assembled. But we would engage and execute this agreement at that time. I'd also state that this is actually what would be considered a normal operating budget expense. And while it's a 3-year service agreement, it would be billed $1,400 annually, and the cost would be expensed through the Tri-View annual budget.
So yeah, the expense is $1,400 annually, not $1,400 for 3 years.
Correct.
All right. Any questions for Kenny? I would move it.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Carper. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work on that, Kenny. Appreciate it.
Pat.
Any two, Dan? All right, item 10, board or budget review discussion for FY '27. Item A is improvement requests. We have several improvement requests that we're going to review tonight. The first one is from secondary roads. So with that, I would turn it over to Ryan and Laura, if you'd like. So.
The one comment I'll make on this before Laura is these two positions are not in the budget or I should say, but these improvement requests for secondary roads is not part of the budget as has been entered, but it'd be part of secondary roads budgets, which does not impact the tax levy funds, which would impact if you guys decide to increase the transfer from secondary roads to cover any additional expense. So,
Clear as mud.
yep.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
So both positions are union positions. Would you like to hear from HR on any of that information? Yeah.
Sure, that's fine. And get that out of the way first.
Melissa Thomas. So I did speak with the union regarding the changes, and they would support anything that the board would decide on this. Regarding the CWA contract position, that would need to be an MOU because there is no position in the contract. As he just mentioned, it's not budgeted. So we would have to do an MOU to create that wage matrix for that position and to include that in the contract.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Would you like me to go over maybe the difference between what we currently have for positions and then why they would be retitled as a new, okay.
Yep, that'd be fine.
Yep. So the first one is a senior engineering technician. We currently have 2 certified engineering technician 2s. I feel that we have employees working in a senior engineering technician. And what I mean by that is they're leading construction projects out in the field. They're making decisions that are within their purview that they can make, and they are making those decisions based on decades of experience. And I feel that we should properly, I guess, pay them for the work that they're doing. So that was the request of the senior engineering technician position.
So you have 2 Tech 2s positions?
Correct.
And you want to move one of them to a senior?
Correct. And then obviously, eventually, we would be looking at, using that individual as a mentor for probably new employees that would be coming into those type of positions. I feel like that's very important.
In the back, if you have the difference between a Tech 2 and a senior engineering, who is completing those tasks of the senior engineering technician currently?
I feel that Virgil is doing that. And some of this is.
And Virgil is a Tech 2?
Sorry, correct.
Okay.
Yes. Many times I'll hear of our foremen saying things like, I reached out to Virgil and he's coming out to look at what we want to do in a project. I've called Virgil because he can, and things like that. Definitely on contracts, a lot of times the first contact the contractor is making on schedule or something changing in the plan is to Virgil, going through those finer details to make sure that those changes can be accommodated or that the schedule that they need to change to is being accommodated. If there's nothing further on that position, I'll go to the next one.
Could we just back
Yeah.
up and Ryan, could you re-explain how this affects our budget?
It affects the secondary roads budget, which it is funded by road use tax from the state. So most of the budget for secondary roads comes from the state. There is a transfer from rural basic of currently right now is 1.8 million. So if it increases the budget, it won't impact necessarily the rural basic unless you feel that the transfer is not enough and secondary roads' budget would be negative. So you could leave it alone at 1.8 million, or if you wanted to cover this expense, you'd increase it to, 1,820,000. So that's how it would impact the levy funds.
So I guess how close are we to needing to do a transfer? Is that typical? When expenses go above?
We haven't done a transfer, but we do about the minimum transfer every year. So that 1.8 million was the same amount as last year.
So that's what we're slated to do right now.
So that minimum, and Laura can explain it better, that allows us access to certain monies by doing that transfer, correct?
Correct. And then the reason why we go a little bit above the minimum is that, for instance, if our lost funding would be significantly lower for some reason, we're going to make sure that through those years that we don't lose any federal or state funding.
So then if we didn't use these funds with this request, they would be used in other areas of your budget?
Correct.
Okay.
So, could be gravel, it could be parts, could be something else that, yeah, that she wouldn't purchase if we didn't increase the transfer. And by not by not changing the transfer, it has no effect on taxpayers, other than there might be some
Something
service or
else that-
supply that they didn't get $20,000 or $13,000 worth of.
And one of the things I would probably look at is if my budget is not going to change is we also budget for, I do really appreciate them, but our 5 summer help for the maintenance shops, and then we usually do 3 engineering, and that fiscal year, we were gonna have a really busy year. But we also do budget for a part-time maintenance person to come in, for instance, if somebody was gonna be off for a really long time. So we could possibly remove something of those positions if you wanted me to.
I mean, I don't know if we should necessarily remove that from your abilities, because, those temporary employees are an annual, those are part of our planning process, so, I look at those as something that we definitely do need to budget for, and use as much as we need. This is a permanent increase
True.
to the baseline,
True.
so I don't like it being at the possible expense of a temporary pool.
Yep.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that whether they're temporary summer help or if they're an intern of some kind, I think that we've seen that interns can be an employee later on.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want to cause that pipeline to stop. And in fact, I think that I've had conversations with you about, like, for a mechanic, I'd love to see an internship there, because there's oil changes and simple things that a lot of these kids that are in diesel mechanic school are off for the summer and looking for a job, and that might be somebody that we could attract to come and work at secondary roads. So I do agree with you there, Matthew. You have a comment?
So I guess, yeah, I'm just kind of curious, is the thought then, you thinking of taking a little bit more out of general basic for their funds, or just, because I know in there it said that you would make it up with improved administrative oversight and financial accuracy. Yeah, it's $14,000 basically, which, so I guess that's kind of my question, what the thoughts are there. What is your thought, Laura? I mean, you already have a plan, I'm guessing, that you were gonna fund it, with approval, so. I'm just kind of curious if you
Yeah,
guys are thinking.
I would say that that's just, if we have to fund it, we will find it. I am that strong that I feel that this position should be, that there should be a senior engineering technician in Woodbury County.
So, yeah, I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts? Were you thinking bumping the 1.8 up, to cover that? Is that what you're thinking, or?
Well, it would increase the tax asking from the public of $13,956. Albeit I would say that I'm always a fan of funding our road department. It's something that I use every day, but I'm only one of 5, so I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I would stress that if we're gonna leave it within our budget, that it doesn't affect, as Matthew and I talked about, any of the interns or
Yeah.
the seasonal help, because I think that they do serve a very important role in the jobs that they're doing currently, so.
So thinking to leave the 1.8 as is and go with that. Okay.
I don't know if that is the most accurate number. I tried my hardest to be, HR and the auditor's office, but I am not. So I would just caution you on that exact dollar amount. I don't know if that is correct. And I believe HR is also, right, looking at similar positions to make sure that we would fund that position correctly based on other people in Iowa that are in a titled position like that. That's correct, yeah.
Well, I'd say let's talk about the clerk 2 to clerk 3, and then we'll
Okay.
kind of have the full picture, and we can make a decision.
Our clerk 2 position is obviously just as vital as our office manager position. It's just that we're needing that position to be as equal of a backup for that because, people need leave, people have a medical event and things like that. And then also, we were hopeful to move into a more online equipment tracking program. And so with those things, it just felt that the clerk 2 title position was just a little bit more basic than what we're asking for the person that's in a clerk 2 position to do every day. So again, it was just me requesting if I could possibly pay these people for the good job that they're doing for us right now, so.
Are we certain that we would be paying those exact people? Like my question is, are we able to guarantee that the same people would be moving from clerk 2 to clerk 3, or would there be a process that we're not discussing or anticipating?
True. I'll let,
No, that would be a process. We'll have an interdepartment job opening. And then anybody in that department that would like to have that position would apply. And then if nobody's picked, we'd go to the outside for the different position.
How many clerk 2s are in the department?
One,
Oh, just one? So we'll be moving this one clerk 2 up to a clerk 3?
on this request, I believe, yeah.
so I suppose if our clerk 2 doesn't apply, we would restrict it to only internal hires only and then not do it.
No, I mean, that's helpful to know that there's one person,
Correct.
not that,
Sorry, I didn't say that, yes.
And as far as you know, they're interested.
Yes.
Good.
Matthew, you had brought up a couple of weeks ago when we had heard the improvement request from EMS about, because they also have a clerk 2 to a clerk 3, about down the road when we have to replace that person, that it's tougher to find a clerk 3 off the street than a clerk 2. Being that this is a one person like EMS, that we're kind of in the same boat in this circumstance as well.
I mean, it's a little smoother overall when there are steps in the department. When you have one that's kind of moving with the classification, then yeah, when you do need to rehire, it makes it more likely that someone from another department, I guess, might get the position than a fast learner in the secondary
I would love
roads
that.
world.
That's awesome. If we can steal from a great person from another department. Everyone would know, okay.
You might want to be careful there, Laura. I don't know, you're not,
That was a rhetorical observation.
Oh, sorry.
This might be more of a question for Melissa, but like if you're gonna hire, if it goes to a clerk 3, I mean, can you always hire at a lower level with the and say that you have to reach a clerk 3 level within a year or something like that? Is that something that can be done, or?
It hasn't been done, but I'm sure we could figure out how to get it done.
I mean, that's just a question, because if you go to that clerk 3 and so it doesn't limit you down the road, maybe.
Right, you just have to remember that we're hiring for the position, not for the person, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so along those lines from Melissa, it was mentioned the employee that's the Tech 2 currently that is fielding all the phone calls, doing all the work. I remember in wage negotiations, was that 2 years ago that we did secondary roads, or 3? Okay, so 3, I think, that they brought up that this one employee, that the union had brought up at that time, that this one employee was overworked and underpaid. And it's not very often that a whole union will single out one of their entire
Okay.
staff and talk about the exceptional job that they're doing and that the compensation was enough. So I have not forgotten that. But I like that in that position we have 2. So you could have a Tech 2 and a senior tech, so you've kind of got some leadership and a little differentiation of their jobs. And I think that as hiring continues to get tougher, when we look at these technicians or assistant engineers or whatever, we're gonna have to lean on internship opportunities to try to get people in the door and facilitate them with what's going on. And I think an advancement like this is someone that could help manage people like that. So I would say that I would be supportive of making the senior engineering change, whether that's paid for in an additional transfer amount or within her budget. I'm rather indifferent right now, but I'm not sure I'm too on board on the clerk 2 to clerk 3 change at this time. But I would open it up for discussion or any other questions to Laura. Everybody's quiet? Thinking.
I guess that's the way I'm seeing it is, I mean, both of them, there's no impact to general basic, if we leave it as is with no extra. I don't know if down the road that it would have to be an increase at all, but right now it seems like it must be doing okay. I mean, same from last year to this year, so, I mean, I don't know, I guess I'm probably in support of both of them.
Yeah, right now, I'm in support of both, right now, looking at it. But I do hear, Mark, your concerns, yeah, with the second position, there is concern there, since there's not a duplicate or a pipeline. But-
Using Laura's engineer math, the 2 positions are about 23,770, which I think is roughly what Ryan mentioned a little bit ago. But what you're saying is that you would leave the transfer the same and that she would just have to find it in her budget outside of those temporary or
Mhm,
seasonal employees.
correct.
Is that what you
Yeah.
guys are saying? Okay.
Tentatively, yeah. Let's
Okay.
try to get on that road first. Mhm. Yeah.
I also agree with the first, but I still have my concerns about the second, so at this time, I'm not in support of the second.
Yeah.
I would support both of those positions.
You would support both positions?
Laura, if you had, which one's more critical to you? I mean, I know you
The
both
senior
want-
engineering
senior
technician,
engineering? Okay,
100%.
okay. Right, I know they're both critical in the sense of right, but just,
Well, for my learning, here, I mean, I guess, what's the thoughts on, leaving it a clerk 2? I mean, just down the road for hiring purposes? Is that-
Yeah. That's what's tough in those small departments, like that. It just, That makes it tough. Well, I would move to receive, or I guess, Michelle, what is going to be the appropriate motion tonight if we want to accept
You
these
should,
requests?
I would recommend making a separate motion for each position, because I know I have several positions, and it would be more clear in the minutes if
Mm-hmm. For
we
sure.
identify that. and
Because
to
technically, we've already
approve-
received this, so we're actually
You
going to approve.
have received it, so
Yeah.
you would approve this, which means that it is still, the official positions and descriptions will come forward later, and the authorization to hire, but you're approving the budget to fund this position.
Are we actually approving, or, because I thought we had to have a public hearing to technically approve, you know,
You've
During-
already received all these into the budget.
right?
So I believe that last year we had, I'd have to look at the minutes. So you brought it back today. I believe that was to approve those.
Well, I think it's to approve or do nothing and they stay received, or take them out. But if we approve it, then do we have to approve every single budget we've already received?
Well, you adopt the budget at the end.
Right.
That's what ultimately approves everything that's within there.
That's what I mean.
I guess you
So
could,
It's in the budget now, we can
yes.
Yeah, so we would almost need to vote to
Restamp it.
remove ones
Exactly.
that we don't want,
Yep.
and the ones that we want to keep. we
Yeah,
would
because
just
this is
leave.
in the levy that was sent out, so it's already quote,
Well, actually, the secondary roads ones are not
oh,
currently.
yeah, thank you.
Okay,
You
yeah.
you mentioned that. You did mention that.
So for this one.
For this one,
We have to approve, but for the other ones, they're already received,
Yes.
yeah, so.
okay.
But if you do approve this one, it would not impact the levy at all, because it's in secondary roads. What would impact the levy is if you decide to change the transfer amount.
Yeah, so if, oh, go ahead, Dan,
No, go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead. You first.
So if we wanted to approve just the technician and not the clerk too, we would just have a motion just to approve this change, and we would do nothing on the clerk too, and then that's, it's like it never existed because it's not received into the budget, correct?
On the clerk 2 to clerk 3, what about a senior clerk position? Would that help? Was that more of a lateral? Is that an increase? Okay.
I was just using position titles that were already in the union contract.
Okay.
Correct or not? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the senior
the
is, it
title
goes
of clerk.
clerk 2, and then senior clerk, and then
Oh.
clerk 3.
Okay,
So there's one step, or there's one
Oh,
grade in
thank you.
between the two.
okay. So that could be an option for the board if you'd prefer that.
Okay.
Well, I would move to approve changing one Tech 2 position to a senior engineering technician position.
Second?
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Bittenger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, passes 5-0.
Thank you for letting me talk about a really amazing employee that we got.
No problem.
Yeah.
Before we move to item 2, is there going to be any motions on the clerk? 2 or 3? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Compromise, senior clerk. Laura, do you think that helps, or?
I don't know the pay scale differences, but it was that, though. The intent is that I feel like the person is outside of a clerk continually, all the time, outside of the titled position that they currently hold.
Well, I'll move to move the clerk two to a senior clerk position.
I want to second it, but I'd like to know more information. What is the jump to senior clerk and does it fit? Yeah, go ahead.
So, within my budget, that's what my improvement request will be, the clerk two to senior, and the financial impact is 20,614. However, my comparisons involve clerk twos that are at the highest step, and your clerk two may be at a different step,
The
so it's
lowest,
close.
the
to
lowest.
Oh, the lowest, so you're gonna have a little bit of a higher, impact, and that's not the employee pay, that includes all the benefits as well.
But I mean, I guess it should be less than the 9,814, I would think, because it's in between a clerk two and a three, correct? Is that what was?
It says, and the financial impact is $5,154 each.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's about 5,000 per position, so instead of 9, it'd be a 5,000. And again, that includes all, FICA and IPERS.
Roughly.
Approximately.
We won't hold you to your Hawkeye math.
Yeah, and Hawkeye math isn't to the penny.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Why does he pick
Is that slander?
You know, we're on different sides of the bracket, everybody, so it's everything's good, so.
Meet in the middle. Right?
All right, there is a motion from Supervisor Dietrich. Is there a second? If not, it's gonna die.
I'd second it.
All right, we have a motion by Dave Dietrich to move the clerk two to senior clerk, seconded by Bittinger. Any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye or nay. Passes 3-2. Nelson and unopposed. Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion.
All right, item 2 from Auditor Scaff.
As she's approached, I'll let you, the last couple pages of the budget backup shows it is in the budget currently and the dollar amount that is currently included for the various positions.
So you might recall, at the last improvement request, when I presented my budget, I gave everyone a packet here. I have one if you want to look at it again. I didn't make more copies, but this just shows you the current structure of the auditor's office and then the proposed structure of the auditor's office. If you would like to make motions on each item, we can just go through them one at a time.
that's fine.
If you want me to just give a big summary, I can do that.
It's been long enough, Michelle, I would say go through each one just to make sure we
Okay.
didn't miss anything.
Okay, so the first item is going to be an additional position that doesn't exist at this time, and this is a real estate deputy. This individual would be a percentage deputy that would start out earning 70% of what my salary is, and then after 6 months, depending on, job performance, I propose that they would move to 75%. This deputy would oversee 2 individuals that currently are in the office. There's a GIS analyst and a clerk 2, currently a clerk 2. The GIS analyst does all of the mapping for the parcels when there's splits, combinations, new parcels, and so forth. And then the clerk 2 does transfers, plat books, and a whole bunch of other things in the real estate cycle. Right now, with those 2 individuals, there's 3 other individuals that actually perform all of the real estate functions of the auditor side of the office. And by having one person that is a deputy in charge of real estate, these three, which is myself, my Deputy Shona Campbell, and Deputy Diane Swoboda Peterson all do parts of the real estate. So those three pieces of our performance is going to be under this person. So that is the first item. Do you have any questions about that item?
And the financial impact on that one is $127,359, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and the second part of the request is to replace the current real estate clerk 2 would be changed to a senior clerk. And this would be funded 50% from the real estate and 50% from elections. The job of the real estate clerk has, with electronic ways of storing things, her duties have kind of been reduced, and elections, we're always short on elections during the elections. And so by distributing this 50% on elections and 50% in real estate, it's going to help to better distribute the workflow where it needs to be. The financial impact on this would be $5,153.68, and this will move 50%. It actually will move from the function, which is currently in the recorder's office, to a real estate function, 50%, which is $48,934, and then 50% would be moved to the general supplemental fund, which is $48,934. So half of that impact, about $2,500 or so, would go to general basic and general, the other half general sub. And this is where that 5,153 figure is for each move from a clerk 2 to a senior clerk.
So before we go forward, on the last one for the deputy, would that be paid out of the general sup fund?
That one would be out of general basic. And that is a new function, as we call it, so it would be its own kind of, you could
Okay.
say, department within the auditor's office.
Okay.
The next request is zero impact as far as the total. It's just moving the GIS analyst from the function of the recorder, which is 8110 is kind of the middle number on that GL, to the real estate where it properly should be. So that's basically zero impact. It's just a line change. Overall on the budgets, though, that is how it's reported. We look at the function and the fund, so it's important that we have that in the right spot.
But these would both be within general basic or general sup?
Yes.
General basic.
Those are both, that
Okay,
will be a
thank you.
lateral move. The next part of this request, this is, all of those kind of hinge on that deputy being created. So those three that I spoke of, kind of, the deputy needs to be created before, these two would be under that person. The next one is independent. This one is, we have 4 clerk 2s in the recorder office. There's a record side and a vital side. There's 2 on each side. And my proposal is to create those 4 positions, to change those to senior clerk positions, which again is an impact of $5,153 each, a total of $20,615. And what that will do is it will allow us to cross-train those individuals so that the records individuals will learn vitals, vitals will learn records, we'll be able to more efficiently cover vacations and time off for individuals, having everybody trained, and we'll be able to better serve the public. So that is the proposal for that.
And this increase, is that in general basic or general sup?
That's all general basic.
Okay, thank you.
And I did touch base with Melissa on the if the unions take on this?
It's the same as I mentioned with
Okay.
secondary roads.
So for YouTube, she said it's the same as secondary roads, so the unions have blessed it.
And you said
They
at the
said
beginning.
they would agree with
Okay.
Whatever the board,
Okay.
so, okay, so the
Okay.
union said that they would
They will
agree
agree
with
with what
whatever
you
the
said.
board decided.
Very
Okay.
good.
For you two. So, at the beginning of this, I think you said that, I just want to clarify, that this last improvement request is in a way separate of the earlier requests as far as this change to senior clerk is indifferent whether or not a deputy is added, is that correct?
Yes, I kind of look at the real estate as forming a little department where those individuals, the GL line moves and so forth are within that. The clerk two to senior clerks. I could also pull out the clerk two to senior clerk funded from elections and if this real estate deputy were not approved, then the lines would change a little bit on where the general basic funds would be because that function would no longer exist for the real estate function.
Thank you. Any questions for Michelle? And all of these have been received into the budget, correct?
Yes, as
Budget Director?
the budget has been reviewed and we'll say the proposed revenue asking this is included.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Michelle at this time?
I have a question for Melissa, if that's all right.
Absolutely. I will allow it.
Thank you. These requests for changes from clerk two to senior clerk or to clerk three, these come up during improvement requests, to my knowledge, almost exclusively during improvement requests during the budgeting process. Just an
Normally.
open question, why are these reorganizations not brought up during bargaining? Like as far as the number of clerk twos, number of clerk threes, number of senior clerks, where they are?
That's a good question.
Why
Well,
is that not pushed by the advocates of these positions?
So, okay, I think that in the past, like prior to, before we started doing these as improvement requests, these would be brought forth by the union. So the employee would say to their union rep, hey, I'm doing job that's outside of my scope, and then the union would bring it forward, and then the decision would be made and so forth. So in the past, maybe 4 years, they've been as improvement requests from the department heads, so it hasn't gone through the union until I bring it forth. So it isn't anything that they were even aware of until it's in the request. So they wouldn't know at the time of negotiations that these, positions needed to be changed or not changed.
Answer your question?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa.
And if I could just add to that, these requests, the reason why I believe that we can make this change is because I'm changing the job description and there's those individuals will be doing more than they currently do. They don't currently do what I'm proposing, so they will be being cross-trained on doing additional duties that they currently do not do. I'd love it if they could go to a clerk 3, that would be even better.
Clerk four.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's another issue. Grade 6.
I don't know, this is tough because we haven't necessarily balanced yet, and this is all general basic money. That's my main concern is where this comes out of.
Well, Matthew, it's 100,000 will go to, out of general basic, and about 50,000 out of general sup is
Okay.
the net impact amongst all these changes.
Okay.
But that's a fund that we're limited in, is, a concern that I have, and when you create a deputy position, that's not one that we can take away if things get leaner down the road, which they're still talking about a property tax proposal at the Capitol, and so I'm sure that they're probably gonna do something. So that's a concern too. I can see utility in the last one as far as cross-training, because I'm sure there's times of years where Vital or real estate can have downtime and they could help each other, or like you said, with vacation, or if someone's on leave or something like that. I could certainly understand that. And that's not a big ask as far as, $20,000, but the deputy and some of the ones that go with the real estate, I'm not sure that I'm supportive of. If Diane is, and I know she's openly talked about when she retires, although we tell her that she could never leave, but she says that she's going to. That's a very important role, and I would almost rather, at that time, if she gives us advance notice that she's gonna be leaving, that we would create a temporary position to hire someone that she could train, like we did with the engineer, for example. I thought that worked really, really well, and then we can dissolve that temporary position at the end and continue onward. So I think that there's other avenues that we can try to work new people in. But just given that general basic is capped, given that it's negative, and that this is a request for position that we can't easily get rid of, those are kind of the issues that I have with it. But I'll open it up for discussion at this time.
Well, yeah, Chairman, similar thoughts from this afternoon. This morning we talked. I do see, starting with this 4 senior clerks, working our way up from the bottom until we see what comes out of the session this year. See what is passed, see what caps we do have. I do think we could bring on this, still accomplish the reorg later on, right? Bring someone 6 months in, create the deputy real estate position, let them be trained. I do echo the sentiments, right? The cap and also the count is negative, but I do think overall, I see where you're going, Michelle, on this. I think it's long term. I think it'll help us, but.
If I can make
Yeah,
a comment. So just the history of real estate is that Diane has performed the duties she has, but the tasks that are done by Shona and myself, that was assumed by the auditor's office when the budget director moved from the auditor's office to the board. Those were duties that didn't used to be done by the deputy auditor. And that was probably, I don't know, 2014 or so. Dennis used to be an auditor staff, and he did all of the tax roll, certified the taxes to the treasurer and all of that. When the board took over the budget director position, the real estate stayed in the auditor's office where it belongs, but there was no additional personnel to do that. So that load has been shifted to individuals within the auditor's office. It is a very heavy load. You can ask some of the partners that we work with, certifying the tax roll, the assessments in January and so forth. It's tough. It's tough for us to get it done in a timely manner. So it is an important position that I believe is warranted.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No, I think I'm in agreement too. I mean, I do agree with the organization of how you have it laid out, and it probably makes sense to get some cross-training in there, but with the, the limits we have and are possibly going to have, I think it's a pretty, and I agree with what Mark says too, when Diane gets ready to go, I think that's a good idea as well, to get somebody in there and get some training.
So are you supportive of any function of this or none of it? I just want to be clear.
Well, I guess that's a question for Michelle, and I think you said a lot of it hinges on that deputy position, right? To reorganize the way you have it.
The movement of the GL line distribution, which is the zero value, would no longer occur. I would still like to have the real estate clerk 2 become a senior clerk and fund 50% from elections and 50% from general basic, but that line will change, so the budget would have to just change that function on that one. So if the real estate deputy is not approved, then those two items would, two of them would go away. Then there would actually be 7 clerk 2 to senior clerks that would be able to be standalone items.
7 or 4?
I'm sorry, thinking the total number, 5.
Oh, okay. So you would still want the 1 clerk 2 to go to senior clerk, funded half from elections and half from real estate?
Yes, I think that would help greatly, and I can see that potentially lower our amount that we pay for individuals that come in during elections that we contract to have them work.
So if that one is a request of $5,153 plus the $20,000, so you're looking at roughly $25,675, somewhere in there, $78 for those 2 requests.
I'd be in favor of the 5. I think we could do the 5, make it work, and so we could, because that'd give you more flexibility, correct, Michelle? I mean, overall, I mean, it would help.
I think that
the
that will
cross-training.
help serve the public the way that I'd like to see. I'd like to see the cross-training happen. I'd like to not be limited, and I'd
Right.
like to see that happen in the recorder and vitals. And I think this elections one is a really important one to be able to distribute some to elections during those peak times when it's needed.
No, I was just gonna ask if Ken had a comment, so Matthew, if you.
Oh, did you? Okay. I think I know where we're at on the first one, so I'll just move to deny the first improvement request for the deputy position.
Second. Motion by Ong, seconded by Nelson to deny the improvement request for deputy real estate. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, passes 5-0. So then, the line item change,
Does that also, do we need to make a motion on the second? Yeah,
on the,
on this one.
no, she said she would, that this one and then the 4 clerks back here would still be relevant. It would
Right, I
be-
know, but this has all been received already
Oh, that's
previously,
correct,
so
so
we'd
we-
have to proactively.
Yeah, we'd have to vote to remove it. But then on this one, Michelle, with the GL lines to be redistributed, do we need to vote to remove that?
Yeah, that is embedded in the budget under the lines.
I know it's $0,
listed.
but, so I
So
move
that-
to remove the GL line redistribution on the improvement request.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Ung. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed 5-0.
What about the 50% funded? Isn't that part of the first?
So that's what her and Dan were just discussing a little bit ago, is that she could still use that person on elections half the time and real estate half the time. So she's still seeking, with those 2 out, that she is still requesting that we do improvement requests on 5 clerk 2s moving to senior clerks, with one of them being split 50-50 between real estate and elections. Is that correct?
Do we
Fair?
need to do them separate, though, the one for the estate and elections?
Yes, they would have to be,
Okay.
well, they've already been received into the budget, so
This one would need to be changed for the GL line for the 50-50 elections, senior clerk. If that were to remain in the budget, the GL line, the 48,934 would need to be changed back to 8110 for the function. So that would just be a budgetary change on that line.
Would you want to tell me that again so I can make a motion?
Ryan, you know what I'm talking about, right? If you look at the bottom of here, it says 001-069011. The
Yep.
9011 is what designates that as a real estate position. So that would change to 8110, which would move it back to the real estate budget. Right now in the budget, it's in 9011.
All right, well then I would move to change the GL line from the 9011 to the 8110 on the senior clerk improvement request.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any discussion? So this motion would essentially change the fund, but then we would be keeping this improvement request for this one individual for a clerk two to a senior clerk. All right, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Passes 4-1, unopposed. Okay, and then the last improvement request is for 4 clerk twos, change to senior clerks, and this is within the recorders and vitals. And they'd be cross-trained to help, or they'd be able to do each other's duties. That correct?
Yes. And that has been received, so that is in the budget as is.
So if we wanted to remove that, we'd have to have a motion to remove. Personally, I'm in favor of leaving this one. I think anytime you can cross-train staff to fill in, I think there's a benefit there. That's not a lot of money. I think it's probably something that maybe should have been done a long time ago. When you go through instances where you don't have someone to step up and fill the shoes when there's a resignation or some sort of a medical emergency, it's tough on the staff working around that. So I think anytime you can kind of have some cross-training, it's a good thing, so.
I would move to approve.
I don't think we have to, Dan, because it's already
Oh,
been
that's right,
received
sorry.
into the
I
budget.
apologize.
So,
Yep.
nope, you're
Thank you.
good.
That's right.
Thank you for listening to the request, and my staff is really gonna be appreciative of moving to the opportunity to become a senior clerk, so thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
I do have a question on the previous one that, are we gonna do 50% into elections, or is it all 100% gonna go to 8110?
Yes, the 50% in elections should remain, so
Okay.
that, I believe, is already in there. So it's just the 48,000 that'll be moved to 8110 from 9011.
Okay.
So 9011 should be completely zeroed out after this.
All right, so then overall, the impact is about 20,000 or 21,000 to general basic, or about 22,000 and about 2,500. Or, no, I'm sorry, are we moving 48? Or-
As far as what's currently embedded in the budget.
Yeah, I just,
The general sup will remain the same
okay, so,
because nothing else affected that.
all right, I just want to make sure I understood.
But it'd be a reduction in the general basic of 127
Yeah,
Yes.
and some. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank
Clear as
you.
mud, Ryan?
clear.
Clear, okay.
Yeah, my little Hawkeye mind had to take a little more time.
Do you have the Hawkeyes winning the first game?
I have them going to the Final Four.
Oh, Ryan.
But they're playing the Cyclones for the championship, so
Oh, okay. Well,
they'll lose, but, so they'll,
okay. All right, item 3, Emergency Services Director Drew Byer, so.
Afternoon. All right. I do have a little add-on here that I think over the weekend would be beneficial, and I haven't done in a year, is give you guys kind of an update of what's going on in the department if you would like to receive.
I'll move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Can I change for pace for a few minutes here? Just a quick rundown our last year's stats, which I think will play upon maybe some of the decision-making process as far as what our run numbers are at and such. As you can see, obviously in 2024, total EMS calls 1181 last year, and this is also a calendar year, not physical budget year, this is all calendar year. Excuse me, we were at 1251, which is about 70 calls, increase of 5.6% increase. Right now, we're at 200 as of today. In 24, they're averaging 98 calls a month. In 25, we're at 104.25, and we're about on the same pace as last year at this time, pretty close to it. Along with that, it gives a more fresh look at the hour of day that most of the calls are happening in, which we've already determined between 8 and 4, 8 and 6 in the evening on 24, 25. And obviously you can see we really can't guess because you can see there the times changed. Number one time on 24 was 11 a.m. for most of the calls. 25 is 10 a.m. Now on 26, for some reason, it moved to 3 p.m. So I have a rhyme or reason with the issues, it's just the way it goes. As you'll see also in the next column below that, the day of the week. In 24, it was Friday was the number one day. 25 was Sunday. And then this year so far, Saturday's been the hot day. So it kind of gives you an idea of what I'm looking at and trying to figure out when the best time to use the services or try to do any planning for additional personnel, equipment, staffing, and what have you.
Well, it looks like Thursday for sure. We got to have somebody, so I don't know what it is about Thursdays.
Yeah. So it gives you an idea of basically what we're looking at. I mean, obviously, the number of times we've done CPR on people, you can see is 8, 7, and so far this year 2, unfortunately. We're seeing quite a few strokes. As you can see, the last 2 years, right now we're at 3, and the last one's been 8 and 13. And then also, you'll see at the very bottom, our fire support to the rural departments, be it either air supply, lighting, and or helping with grass fires, whatever. 34 and 25, which the number of calls we actually made it on scene and provided assistance. Obviously, you go to the very top, we had 98 requests for that. So again, sometimes we'll get on scene, they got control of the fire, we don't need your help, thanks for coming, go away, have a good day. Sometimes we end up getting halfway there and get canceled because either they got it knocked down or they resolve the issue. So that's kind of a nutshell for that part of it. So this, you had a little bit of a updating to that. Okay, and of course in the packet you guys already got, we kind of lay it out there also, the goals of adding additional personnel, what our mindset is, what our thoughts are. Again, it shows you the Monday or the 7-day week, busiest days. Again, there's no rhyme or reason. It changes from year to year. So we really can't predict it. Wish we could. It'd save a lot of problems, a lot of headaches, and a lot of money, but we can't. So on the very bottom, it goes into following kind of direction by Chairman Nelson. We've kind of focused on more towards the Monday through Friday scenario, but we did do research and see how those would play out if we end up adding 2 medics. I got one, obviously, I think back in the budget from last year's holdover, that we could do 2-man crews, we could do 1-person crew, 24/7, whatever. It's kind of, I got really flexible. I'm even open for ideas, thoughts, and funding, of course. So we worked all different avenues of that, trying to figure out the best way to go. So there is some kind of a plan there, but obviously it's depend on what happens today and the next few weeks.
Yeah, so the medic that we froze last year in his budget, that is currently plugged in general sup, right?
Yes, and it's not part of the improvement request.
Oh, okay.
I
Gotcha.
did, sorry. I'm sorry, I added at the very back because I didn't know it had already been plugged in. So the very last improvement question here is pretty much null and void. That one we can knock that one out because we already, go ahead.
So is that one, so his very last improvement request was to reinstate the full-time from last year, so do we have that one budgeted twice?
No, it's only part of the, I'll say, the main budget. The improvement request line is just the, we'll say, new or additional positions. The unfrozen one was already part of the or normal budget line.
But then do we need to remove this one out of there?
Well, technically, it's not, it probably should be removed already, unless you refreeze the position. Because it's not part of the actual improvement requests.
Was this one presented earlier, and was it added into the budget as an extra one? More than, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll just leave it for now. Is that what you want? You're the boss.
Well, it's, not part of the improvement requests.
Okay. I guess as chair, I get to decide which one we'll take up first. We've already kind of been discussing, as you brought up, the additional staff, so I think let's jump ahead and we'll tackle that one first. So this one is a proposed request to add 3 FTEs with a total cost of $359,613. And this improvement request would be based on 3 FTEs working 24-hour days.
Correct.
24-hour shifts, correct? Okay. Supervisor Dietrich and I met with members of Odo, Smithland, and Anthon Fire and EMS, along with Director Byer back in, was that in December, early December?
Yeah, around there.
And they talked about the lack of EMS help along that whole Highway 31
Correct.
corridor.
Yes.
But they talked about that even the volunteers that were there, that they didn't see a need at this time for 24/7 help, that it's mostly during the day when folks are at work. A lot of them work in Sioux City or in other communities, so they're physically not there. But at night or on weekends, they are back home. And that's something that I've heard from other departments. I work very closely with a lot of our volunteers with, and that was something we heard at the town hall in Anthon, was that, the purpose of this department was to assist, not to take over. And there's a fear that if we do more, then volunteers will want to do less, and then it kind of becomes a snowball.
That's a lot of the concern, yes.
And so really it needs to be kind of subsidized care and not taking the whole thing over. So I don't think, based on the conversations with those staff or with those volunteers or communication with the public, that I'm in support of adding 24/7 staff on that side of the county. But I do see a need for something during the day. And so if we could try to apprehend, and I guess I'll ask you this, Drew, if you, as director, what's easier to manage? Is it an 8-hour day, a 10-hour day, 12-hour day? If we were to just run Monday through Friday, again, if volunteers are there on the weekends, if they're there at night, if we try to anchor middle of the day when they're at work, even 8 hours, is that something that's manageable on your side, or?
Yeah, we looked at, my assistant and I looked at it very heavily and laid it all out, and we tried different scales. We tried, the 5-day, Monday through Friday. We looked at the 8-hour, the 10-hour, and 12-hour. I'm not really in favor of the 12-hour one, because you're putting people 5 days in a row, and maybe they're not busy, but that come at Thursday, Friday, after 12 hour, your third or fourth 12-hour day, I'm not quite sure what my quality of person is going to be on a Friday, where I think if we look more, I think 8 hours too short, because we saw on there sometimes the calls do come later in the afternoon when people start coming home from work. So I'm really more towards the 10-hour. I think it gives us good balance from 8 to 6. By that time, most people are home or almost home. That hits that back end of that 5 o'clock shadow sometimes when things are going on to start off with. I think that will work as far as that goes as a trial period or trial mechanism to work with. Just be the thing is trying to find persons that want to, work the 5 10-hour days, because obviously the salary is going to be gross over a little different versus those who do 24/7.
Is that a 10-hour day with 3 people, or is that 2 people?
That would be if the staffing goes through. I got the one medic we're hoping to get back off the frozen deal. That person will be one, and then if we hire one more or 2 more, then that would be a 2-person crew, is ideally.
Okay.
Because there's some days we get out there and we may get a larger person, and 2 people sometimes cannot get them out of the house by themselves. So at least I like to have 2 if possible, desirable.
So 2 people on a 10-hour shift and 2 people on a 24 at the same time.
Correct. We had 2 on the 24 and then 2 on the 10. Is hopefully my desired staffing.
Would we budget, would you request for overtime for those additional 10 hours a week, or we fill that with part-time, or what was your?
Well, if we're filling, if they're like vacation time, like we the same way we do now. If Matthew goes on vacation, I find Matt or somebody else to fill a spot. We'd have to watch that and see how that worked out for use, because right now we have only 6 part-time medics that we use now to fill in with our one deployment right now. And sometimes that gets a little tricky with harvest and the planning, but we work through it.
But I just meant as far as the pay, because if we're paying on a 40-hour week, but they're working 50 hours, would there be 10 hours of overtime?
Now, this schedule here, we would not quite hit on our deal, we're under a 207K pay system to get,
Okay.
and usually over 212 hours is when they hit their overtime margin mark. So if they're doing the 5 10-hour shifts, you're only at 200 hours in a 28-day cycle. So it'd be rare that they would hit anything up that unless it's late calls where they got run over, or maybe it's a weekend, I have one of those people fill in for a weekend spot.
So the financial impact, would that be still roughly 120,000 per employee then, or would it be less?
Probably be less. 'Cause right now, the numbers I set obviously went high on the basis of a full-time position, the same shifts that we're doing now. Obviously, it's easier to come down than it is to go back up on the backside.
Sure. Very interesting to know if we could do some rough math and figure out what that would look like.
I mean, you're looking at, just off, we've sat down and we penciled here and there and looked at, that position would end up working 2,600 hours per year.
Okay.
And then going off the current pay scale before the new budget goes in, you're looking at about 71,890 for one medic position for a year. And most of the medics now currently, they're rounding out at about 75, 77 that are doing the 24/7s or 24,
So that,
48s.
yeah, that's just the pay and then the benefits.
It's just straight pay, it's not benefits, not anything else. It's just dollar pay, quick, dirty numbers, basically.
Sure. So it is slightly less. Would these staff be housed out of Climbing Hill, or would we, I know at that meeting, Odo had discussed allowing the use of their building, their ambulance building.
Yeah, if it still stands, that opportunity still stands, yes. We'll bop them out of there ideally.
And I believe they said at no cost to us.
That's what they said, yeah.
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 They just want us, they want us there that bad that they're willing to,
Yes, yeah.
which, I mean, it's just electricity and a little extra electricity and water for
I
those
mean,
guys to be
it's-
there, you know, but.
You know, for our part of it, as far as the county part, there's no really cost of structures or facility, other than unless something comes up later on, they may want something for electricity, but that's something we can cross down the road later on.
But we'd likely probably want to do a 2080 with them. I mean, we'd want to make sure for the insurance and everything else, if we're going to use that facility, you know, and make sure our bases are covered on expenditures and who's paying what and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we could look at the specifics of that, and typically if we're housing someone somewhere else, there's some sort of formal agreement involved, just to cover all those bases.
But a 10-hour day is what you're recommending, Monday through Friday?
At this point, yes. Like I said, and Mr. Ong made a good point of it, we don't want to be throwing a bunch of money at something that may not work. And I think this would be a good starting point, get our feet wet and see this is working out, if it's appreciated and if it's being used. So, I mean,
Sure.
So I would just like to say, with the 24-hour employee and the 40-hour, 10-hour employee, there's different FLSA rules. And the reason we can have the 24-hour employee is because of the firefighting. So if you'd have like a 10-hour employee that would get overtime after 40, they would not be able to fight the fires. They wouldn't be able to be fire
activity.
activity. They just would be the paramedic.
And I think we're not hearing calls for extra assistance on any fire. It's just
Okay.
on the EMS is what we're hearing.
Does
Yeah,
that
they just
affect?
have to be really separate, so we know exactly when to pay overtime and not pay overtime according to the laws, so.
It probably just affects us, I guess. It probably wouldn't affect like they're volunteering in a town as a firefighter. Does it affect
No.
that? No.
Grass fires.
Mainly I'm doing is supporting for grass fires. And typically, if this goes through, that unit there that's deployed at Odo will not be, they may do a standby, medical standby, but they're never actually physically be firefighting, because the unit used for that purpose will be cleansed out of Climbing Hill.
Yeah, we do have staff out there that are volunteers, firefighters or volunteer EMS on other departments. And at times, if they get paged, they'll respond to their department and go fight a fire. But not on our behalf, so.
So I guess so I'm caught up here is on the, so it wasn't asked for 24-hour, which was a total of 359, 613, roughly. So it'd go to 2 10-hour, is that what,
Well, actually, it would
Or would
reduce
stay-
to one
reduced to 1?
because there's already one that's plugged into his budget. So there was 3 here plus the one, so there was overall a
Okay, I
request
thought
for
he was
4.
Still
Yeah.
wanting the one that was already in there and then 2
Right.
more.
I mean, the long hair of it was obviously hopes for 3. With that other one, I could put 2 more paired up if we need to 24/7 on a different schedule.
Okay.
And still do the same thing basically, but just, again, I tried to plan big with anticipation of it getting obviously downsized.
So basically, it's one person at a touch under 120,000 with benefits and everything.
Yeah. I would be supportive of unfreezing that one that we froze from last year and then adding one FTE paramedic, or I guess EMT, whatever we can get, but I think a paramedic kind of makes sense because we're flush with EMTs in the county, we're not with paramedics. And we're really not flush with EMTs either, but there's definitely more of them than paramedics. This was something that I have done quite a bit of due diligence on, and the board as well. We heard from Farm Bureau, we went to our meeting out there, that they had requested 24/7 service. So that they actually had requested more than what we're gonna vote on tonight. At the town hall, we heard, and you were there as well, that folks were very supportive of making sure that we have people in the right positions to try to deliver life care. It was actually kind of ironic, or surprised, I guess I'll say, is I was invited out to the Sioux City Cosmopolitan Club 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about budgets, and I brought up improvement requests, and I actually had folks that live in Sioux City that kind of jumped me about this and said, why are you even considering this? Like, this is something that nobody's gonna bat an eye about adding life-saving support throughout the county. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because these folks, maybe didn't even know where Anthony Rhoda was, but I think that there's still a sensible way that we got to approach this, and I don't think that we need to load the boat with staff, and we still need people to volunteer, and we still need, I know that we offer classes at a discount, and anything we can do to try to help volunteers, get certified, or, join fire departments too, we need those as well. But I think we need to walk before we can run, and Matthew, I know as the elder statesman, you're the only one left that kind of got this started, and I know it was right when I was out of college, so not to date you, but that was roughly 12, 13 years ago. And so we saw a need for it then, and it hasn't changed, unfortunately. But I hear from our volunteers all the time how much they appreciate the support, and I've had quite a few of them chew on my ear that we haven't had enough manpower.
Right.
But again, I'm trying at least, and I think all 5 of us are, to walk this line of being financially responsible and efficient, and try to, help people where we can. So, so I guess if one of these is already in the budget, then I would move to remove 2 of them from the budget, and then you would still have your 2 FTEs, and
Okay.
I would encourage you to work on a
Oh, yeah.
10-hour, 5 days a week schedule. So I would move that very thing.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any further discussion or questions? I would like to add, and this is something to consider, I know that I think that there's probably some reserves to cover this. This affects the general supplemental fund, correct, Ryan?
Yes, this is all out of the general supplement.
I would not be opposed, and Matthew, you can close your ears if you want, but I would not be opposed to raising the general sup levy for this, from the standpoint that if we are met with a cap from the government, that we'll be in a much better position next year if we've raised a little bit to cover this than if we've used reserves. So I would ask, and I know that we're not settling that tonight, but I would just encourage you guys to think about that. We're looking at what, roughly 240,000?
Right, yeah, volunteers would.
Less than
You
that.
probably get better numbers than I do,
225,
but
220, but it's not a lot of money divided out across the county, but I think that if they do meet us with caps, that we will have wished that we had done that this year, than use reserves. But we can, of course, discuss, obviously we'll have a vote or discussion on that at another time, but.
he's got it, when he sent it back to me, the numbers for the auditor's office, they were figuring 119, 871, 18 per medic position with benefits, everything else. That's what you're looking at probably for that, if you go that full number.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. All right, now let's flip back to your first improvement request in this packet, Drew.
Sure.
I think I'm at looks like a 1.5
Yes.
wage increase, and this would be over and above what the board has.
Correct.
So Ryan, is this plugged in currently or not?
It is currently plugged in, but the board increased the wage plan from 2% to 3%. So in a sense, 1% has already been included. So if this is left in, it would actually be a 4.5%
Okay.
increase.
Sorry. Smirky grin.
Well, we could move to change it to 3.5, which is what the original intent was.
No, I just mean with our deadline to get the max tax levy out and by default approving every conceivable request, it just makes it a little different when we're going through additions, you know. It's harder to remove something than it is to add something. And typically it should be harder to add an improvement request, but, you know, it is what it is.
How does our, and maybe you don't know this off the top of your head, Drew, and maybe Melissa does, how is our hourly rate compared to like Sioux City or, I know Ida County's got full-time.
This would bring it to match, I believe, the high end of the medic scale for Sioux City. I believe they're 29 something an hour, according to the last email I saw from the city HR department. And well, before when you had the 2% that you guys had already figured in, it bumped it to 28.20. So it would bump it close to that 29 mark. For the medics. Of course, the EMTs will follow up too, but of course, obviously the medics are the higher paid of the group.
Well, I think with, we were already figuring, we were originally, before we said 3%, we were at 2% and you were trying to get to 3.5. I think I would probably be just in support of just leaving it at 3%, I think,
Okay. So you want to remove this from the improvement request? Dave?
I'll move to remove the 1.5% increase above the 3%.
Second.
Motion by Dietrich, seconded by Bittinger. Any other questions or discussion on that?
Can you clarify the amount? There's three different items that reference 1.5%. Is it all three of those? That is on page 71 of the homework. 6,635, it says 2% to 3.5. The next one says 3 FTEs, additional 1.5, and 6 part-time, additional 1.5.
Can I just move to remove that request of 1.5% wage increase for staff to include both full-time and part-time employees from the top there, what the request is? The way, or,
Because I think if you remove the 1.5%, all of those that,
then it goes back down.
I separated them out, each one, so each one of those would go away if the 1.5% is removed. Because those were, I specifically tried to keep them separate so we could see what the impact of the 1.5% would be
Over the 3%.
over the 2%,
Over the
yes.
2%.
And that's, if, it's also, that was saying if we had improved 3 FTEs, since we've only approved 1, that line's gonna change anyway.
Yep. Yep. So what should the motion be then?
I would say just remove the 1.5%.
Okay.
And then all the ones that reference that, I can remove out of the budget.
Dave, would you like to make that motion again? Third time's the charm.
It was kind of just what I just said, right?
Yeah.
I moved to remove the 1.5% wage increase for the Woodbury County Emergency Services to include both full-time and part-time employees. Does that
Yep.
work?
Dan, you also want to second that?
Yes, second.
Motion by Dietrich, seconded by Bittinger. Any other discussion or questions on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Passes 5-0. Okay, so then the next one was to move the clerk 2, grade 5, step 5, to a clerk 3, step 5.
Correct.
And that is a difference of $6,811.84.
It was 6,811.84, right?
The actual difference is the $9,061, because the sheet did not include the FICA and
Okay,
IPERS.
so how much again, Ryan?
$9,061.30.
So this is another one that we kind of had with secondary roads where you have one person in this position. No doubt that she does absolutely a lot of work. I just think about the long-term implications of moving up to a clerk 3, but, and this is all out of general stuff, right?
Yes.
It's getting to be more and more time consuming. We do the back calls on when we charge the services to reconcile the books for the last 3 years, getting to be more time management issue to get that revenue in so we can turn it into and meet my projected revenue for the board. Not to mention everything else is going to be more technological and more time consuming with more loops and hoops to jump through and all the paperwork.
Melissa, would this be an internal posting in that department?
Yes.
Because this is
No,
AFSCME, isn't it?
this is an ASME
Yeah.
position, yes.
So would this be internal in the county or just in her department first?
We would do interdepartment, but the reason we do the internal is to allow everybody in the union an opportunity.
Can you please come to the microphone?
Yeah, sorry,
I'm
Melissa.
sorry. We like to allow everybody in the union, though, to apply for those positions. So,
Melissa, maybe you might want to stay up here, so.
Here, you have one, I have
yeah,
one.
okay, yeah.
Just so I know, so would it automatically have to go from a clerk 2 level 5 topped out to a clerk 3 level 5 topped out? Or could it start somewhere in that clerk 3 step where it's, just a touch above the clerk 2 and keep stepping up?
Or senior clerk?
I understand what you're saying.
Senior
So in the contract, which I don't have in front of me, it does lay out how somebody is transferred to a higher position. So it'd be closer to, if not over than, equal to, increase one step, along those lines. So I'd have to really see exactly the wages to say where she would go on the clerk 3 level.
And again, this is in the budget, so we'd have to have a motion to remove. You have something to say?
I'll move to remove.
Second.
Seconded, motion by Ung, seconded by Bittenger. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye or nay. Passes 4-1. Nelson opposed. Okay, then your last request, I believe, is on the FTEs, or the part-time, from .2 to .25,
I think
or is there one that I missed?
There's
there
actually
should
two
have
of
been
them.
one
What's that?
more.
There's 2 of them, part-time EM, T, and then a part-time paramedic. 6 of them moving from .2 to .25 for the paramedics, and then the other one was just one position.
Which one you want to discuss first?
So we're requesting the paramedics go to a .25 FTE. Is that one of the,
Right, 'cause what that affects is that basically when I do my budgeting for the part-time medic position salary, what I basically do is take the total 2764 hours that the full-time medics are scheduled for, times the .05, and it gives me a number, basically, a salary range for that one part-time position. And I take that, I think it's like $198 or $89, whatever it is, times 6. And that's what I plug in as my budget number to set for overtime, or for that wage for the part-time person. I do the same thing for the EMT side, but theirs is .25. So that number on the top end comes in at a higher amount based off that. Because up to now, there was really no set way. That's like how they did in the past. The only way around this the biggest problem I have is when it comes time for the paramedic part-time budget, it usually goes over because it's just a low number that we budgeted for it. The only alternative would be is next time in our budget year, I look back the last 3-year average and then get a number off of that and then bump it by 5% and establish that. And this also affects some of their benefits too as well.
so if we were to move from .2 FTE to .25 FTE, it would cost $20,273.99. Is that correct? If I'm reading that right? Well, actually, it'd be more than that because it's 3%, not 2%. Cost of living.
22 with a total that's 136. That'd be great. 22.
That was 22 per, so it was 136 total for the 6. And this is shifting them, if I'm looking at the same, is from .05 to .25. So what's in the budget or on that line for improvement request is $136,614.72.
And is that taking into account 3%? Or is that still down at the 2% level? I think
That was at
2.
the 2%
That's
level.
at
Yeah, so it'd be
2%.
slightly higher than with
Yeah.
3%.
Mr. Chair, I think there's two different things here. You're discussing the .2 to .25 paramedic, .20 to
No.
to .25?
No, right now, it's just the .05
Okay.
to the
'Cause-
.25 for the part-time medics. The other one you're talking about was the gaining back a .05 on the EMT position that moved.
Okay.
And the reason I went to .25, that way it matched the same coefficient or same number we're using for the EMT position. Otherwise, one's at this, and it makes things, it's more expensive, yes, it adds up money quickly, but it makes everything balance out. That way, end of the year, I'm not going in the red. And you're asking me why. So it's the only way I can figure doing it is making that the same. And we got a little bit more of a cushion to go with. And then we'll figure out then if it's too much, I can always come back and redo that number.
If I can give a little bit of historical perspective, I believe when the paramedics were first created, it was 3.25 employees. And I think the intent of that director was to have 3 full-time and 1.25 employee. And then the next director or the one after that started separating that out into .05s to make up the .25. So instead of having one person, they'd have 5 individuals to make up that .25. So that's kind of how it has grown to be what it is now. And obviously, .05 is a tough one to hire and manage that dollar amount.
And you're right, and the reason behind that was that we had a couple directors that we couldn't hire full-time. but they could hire part-time. And so he had a huge roster of part-time employees that were basically doing a full-time job. But now that we have a bunch of full-time people, that roster has shrunk, so there's been a pretty major change, but I think that we were wrong in allowing all of those part-time. We really needed to focus on hiring full-time people, because I think at one time we had like 12 or 14 part-time on the roster. I mean, it was just,
Yeah, now
it
we're
was
just, we're
ridiculous.
basically down to 9.
Yeah.
Well, once spots open, with that probably gets filled up, there'll be 9 part-time.
But
Six-
we
six
had like
medics and
3
3 EMTs.
full-time positions that were unfilled, so the full-time, or the part-time guys were getting a lot of hours, filling in for.
Like right now with one being gone for 6 months.
Yeah.
Trying my best to use the part-time people rather than pull my full-time back in and paying more overtime.
Yeah.
Do we know how much that, extra that you've had to come back for because of this, like in the past year, or? Ryan, I don't know if you have a number on that, or?
Last year, does this go into the part-time employee line? The budget for part-time was 14,838. The actual amount was 78,694. And the regular, wage plan employees, the budget was 230,000 and the activity was 198,000.
Quite the difference in numbers.
What was that other one again, Ryan?
The full-time or wage plan employee account, the budget was 229,991 and the activity was 197,604. And I said the part-time, the budget was 14,838 and the actual amount was 78,694.
And that's the medic one.
Yep.
And for this fiscal year, the budget for part-time was 19,103, and the year-to-date activity is $20,009. So, with 3 months more to go, it is already over budget.
And that's on the EMT.
That's medic,
The medics,
medic one.
the paramedics.
And there's still 2 months of that deployment time yet to cover, so.
I think I'm good with it.
Yeah, so this has already been received in the budget, so if we want to do something different, we would have to remove or change it. So, Drew and I have worked on, and Melissa too, have worked on trying to wrangle this part-time thing in for, it seems like since you've been here. And we had a lot of meetings with the prior directors about trying to get this figured out. And so I would be supportive of just leaving this as is, and hopefully we get this all straightened out going forward.
Okay.
So, all good? All right, is there any other, is that all of them for EMS?
There was the one that we trying to get back it'd be on the EMT side budget, and it was last one was the FTE from, that's .20 back to .25. We had to pull .05 to go over to the part-time medic position, because that EMT that was an EMT spot got bumped up to the part-time, they passed their tests and stuff. But in order to fulfill that funding spot, right, we had to pull .05 from that item to fulfill the other spot that was there. So we're trying to get that back, so when we hire our next part-time EMT, that they're both at the same rate versus one being at .20 and he being at .25.
What's the financial impact on that?
It was just under 3,500.
Oh, okay, the 34, okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, with the 1%, it might be,
about 3,500.
okay. All right, I'm good with leaving that one.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's everything, I guess.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ryan, you'll make those changes, removing those two FTEs out of the Gen Sup, and then reducing the cost of living one. All right, so last, certainly not least, thanks for hanging out with us. We got the medical examiner.
And one quick thing,
Yes.
Mr. Ong, by the way, your last EMT class just finished, 9 of them. As far as I know, they all passed. Thank you.
What's that?
It's your job to push it through and they got
Oh,
it
yeah,
done.
yeah.
I didn't forget.
Thank you.
So we had 9 that just passed, is that right, from the EMT class? That's great.
Good evening.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Anytime, anytime. Happy St. Patrick's.
Yes, same to you. I don't know that I have, yeah, I don't have any backup on the medical examiner.
I'm just here to answer any questions if you had anything. I think you've been presented, Ryan. I think you presented everything. I'm just representing Dr. Bryan, or if there was.
Sure.
Yeah, the only backup I have at the moment, because I don't really have a full job description, is we went with, at the moment, what's in the budget is a grade 6, step 3 position, which with benefits was $99,000. And then there was standby pay of $20,000. So what's in the budget at the moment is $119,000 for this position.
And this is in general
Basic.
General basic, okay, thank you.
I know Melissa has done some more research on, I think Polk County had a similar position, but we don't really have a, full job description at the moment.
Okay.
Right, and this position will be to completely run the morgue since St. Luke's transition is off their property. The county will take over all services, in essence, for the county of morgue services. So families call, meeting emergency services with the deceased body, running facility, all that entails making sure it's clean, making sure reporting to the state, handling, anything that St. Luke's was doing, we have to do now. And so we have to have someone there, one of our medical examiners just can't do it by themselves. It has to be pretty much a full standalone position.
Yeah, this
from what we're finding
position is
out.
going to
Yeah.
entail quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the public or anybody following along, in essence, we're creating a new position, but we're not adding one. It's just that St. Luke's was.
Correct,
Was
yeah.
doing a lot of this for us.
For us, mhm.
Which they're not anymore, and so we
Correct.
have to have someone
Right.
do this, and so
Mhm.
it's a new position, but it's not that we're really adding.
Adding, right.
Yeah, it's.
Right.
You're gonna be doing the same job, it's just somebody else was doing it before. And then,
For us.
but were we paying St. Luke's for that work?
No, we were, in essence, no, we weren't really paying them. Now, we're paying for the facility,
Oh, okay.
kind of joint
For the
use
facility,
but
but-
not for the actual operation.
Okay.
no.
I know some of the employees up there that have been doing some of the things. I apologize for my voice. 3
Oh.
weeks of a cold and infection. At no pay, and that was not in their job description. So now you're going to have one person that has to basically do all of that work plus the
Sure.
other things
Right.
as well related to that building.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks for all your work, and thank you, Dan. Thank you again for your work on the morgue, and appreciate it very much. All right, so then we'll go down to miscellaneous review. You got anything pressing for us, Ryan?
Not at the moment. I can update this for all the, changes we did for tonight, which will, again, this is showing the tax levy with no change. So with no change, the decrease in the general basic was 642,000. The decrease in general sup was nearly 1.2 million, and the decrease in rural basic is 114,000, which tonight, the amounts are going to have a less of a negative, but the exact amount I can get to you as soon. It's probably like 100 and some thousand in general basic and a couple 100,000 in general sup.
In general basic, are we factoring in I know we had a tentative agreement tonight on the consent agenda for the deputies union. Is that factored into this, or is that gonna be
Well, that needs to be
added in?
added in.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you could update that and email this sheet out to the board, that'd be great.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Anything for Ryan on the budget review? All right. Item 11, reports on committee meetings. Dave, you got anything? I had a 911 board meeting Wednesday night. We approved the budget. The budget was an increase year over year, but they've got some capital projects that they have to get done that they've kind of been planning for, and so it doesn't affect us in any way. It's just that the budget was more with some of these projects that they had planned, but they've got a nice amount in reserves, and so we appreciate that. But that is all I have for myself on committee meetings. Item 12, citizen concerns. Uh-oh, you guys are gonna have to arm wrestle for it.
You can knock me over right now real easy. Dan Heisel, Conservation Director. I just wanted to comment, I was very happy to hear that you were supportive of part-time seasonal employees and interns when you were talking with Laura. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you, 5 of my field employees that have worked with us for years started out as seasonals. My deputy director started out as seasonal. So.
And I believe you have an intern that's with you full-time too.
Yeah, so, and the position that we're gonna interview for first we have to test them, they gotta make the law enforcement testing first. Both of those candidates out of the pool, the only 2 we have were seasonal employees for us before. So it does help with recruitment. So, and I just want to stress that that's why I put those 6 seasonal positions back in of the 13 that were removed last year. So I just want to say that, thank you, that you noticed that. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Good evening, Tina Berkshire, Woodbury County Treasurer. Really, the only thing I want to do tonight is just give some information. I think I talked to Mark earlier today, and I'll probably have another information item on next week's agenda. But this is about taxes. We're 2 weeks away from the second deadline of the year. A lot of people have, they overlook the March payment because we don't send out statements. So we just want to make sure and communicate out there as the best we can. So we're going to be posting on our website, trying to get some people, just get information out to people that March 31st is the deadline. There was a change that the post office actually published last fall, that they are now processing mail. They're stamping mail, time stamping mail based on when they processed, not when they received. That was a huge issue in September. So for anybody who watches the YouTube meetings, if you're paying your taxes and you're mailing them, please please, please, please make sure that you get them in, and probably before March 31st, because if they're date stamped after that, Iowa code is interest is payable. And that was a big issue in September. So,
And I think part of that is that for a lot of the post offices, especially in the rural towns, their services have been cut.
yes.
So like in Mobile, I believe they do a mail pickup, it's either at 8 or 9 AM on Monday, or on Saturday. And then there is no other mail that leaves the Mobile post office until after 4 on Monday, which that's quite a long time, you know, and so I think that's probably why they did that, is you have mail sitting in places for 3-4 days, you know, but yeah, it's something that everybody needs to be aware of, and look at your mailbox too, because if you happen to go to Mobile or Anthony or whatever and drop that in there on a Saturday, it might sit there till Monday or Tuesday, and I don't think a lot of people know that that is the case, unfortunately.
That's true, and that is exasperated by the fact that it goes to Sioux Falls now.
Yep.
And so Sioux Falls is being probably inundated with a lot of Iowa mail, so it's taking them longer and longer to process. So one thing we do recommend, we can't guarantee that the local post office will actually do it, is to actually go into the post office and see if they'll stamp it for you. Because what we need is the name of the post office. So with the Mobile example, if you were to go in, if Mobile will stamp it with the date, even if Sioux Falls date is October 1st, we can take that Mobile date. So that's the important thing for the community to understand. With all the changes with the post office, it can't guarantee that they'll do that. There may be some post office that say, no, we can't do that anymore. But it is worth trying and asking. We have had a few people do that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the DSC credit, which is the Elderly Low-Income Disability Credit. We strongly encourage people to those who are over 65, it is on an income scale. If they make less than $26,000, there is upwards to $1,000 credit. We just want to communicate that out. We have sent out this year's forms, which actually will impact this tax statement that comes out in August. And those are bright orange forms, so please don't throw them out. Fill them out if you can. If somebody's just turning 65 and they believe that they qualify, let us know. We will send out an application as well. We can take those applications up to March 31st of next year. So we still actually have 2 weeks for this current tax cycle for anybody over 65. If they can get forms into us, we can process them. And potentially, if they're eligible, we could apply a credit to this year's taxes. So those are important things when people are finding themselves in tight positions and coming up on the tax sale and things like that. And even for, we talk about some that have suspended taxes, even if people are eligible for suspended taxes. And that is a tool in the toolbox, and we should have it as an offering. It is extremely important if they qualify to apply for those credits as well, because that's money that they do not have to pay back. That's money when the property when taxes are suspended, when that property transfers, those taxes are due and payable. So if they're applying for credits and eligible, that credit is taken off the tax, so that's not paid back. And that's important for families to understand that when they're looking at that, trying to keep mom and dad in their home, or trying to keep those homes there for mom and dad to be able to use for any kind of income source. So those are actually important things for the community to understand, that even if they're in a suspended status, that they do apply for those credits as well. So I just wanted to say that. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen concerns?
I actually have something I'd like to, should have said during the miscellaneous review. I just want to, what went out for the max levy for the countywide levy rate, which includes the general basic, the general sup, and debt service, was for the levy rate was 7.30560. And I just wanted if you did want to, the levy rate per 100,000 is 0.01654. Last year, the levy rate was 7.11118. If you did want to, I'm just going to add 200,000 to cover emergency services, the levy rate would be 7.14425. So I just, wanted to let you know on that.
Thank you, Ryan, I appreciate that. And that's Hawkeye math, so you can take it to the bank, right?
Yes, I even went down to, what is it, the 5th decimal point?
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you, Ryan, appreciate it. Any other citizen concerns? All right, board concerns. Have anything? If you're like me and Ryan, you want to get home and watch the start of March Madness tonight, right?
I'm actually watching the United States in baseball.
Okay.